Okay, so in our previous lessons, we have seen the historical development of our constitution. So right now, let's quickly summarize whatever I have said. Like in previously, I have explained you about companies rule. That is, East India Company in our India, it has ruled some of the time. Like from consider 1700s to 1800, to be precisely 1773 to 1853. On the other side, we after 1853 we have transitioned into direct rule of crown, right? We would be calling it as crown's rule. This is from 1858 to 1947. Briefly, there are some important acts which have been passed in this time, which has been given the developments which now we are enjoying as a constitution. Like in 1773, to be precisely from 1750 to 1800, the two major acts which have been passed are the 1773 Regulating Act and the 1784 Pitt's India Act. Okay, so what is I have mentioned in the 1773 Regulating Act, we have seen that the Governor of Bengal has been designated as Governor General of Bengal. We have also seen the establishment of Supreme Court. We have also seen that the authority has been given in the Governor of Bengal, the Governor General of Bengal, that he would be ruling on this. And who is the first Governor General of Bengal? Yes, right. Lord William Bentinck he was. So he used to govern it. So it provides a kind of administrative kind of setup at this point of time. And coming next to Pitt's India Act of 1784, the important provision is first time it has been mentioned that the territories of India are Crown's territories. It means we are defining some territories as part of ruled by a certain government. These kind of precedents has been set by this act. After this, let us see some other developments like the developments from 1800 to 1850. Previously, we have talking about Regulating Act, which means the company's rule was being regulated by the crown. But now it is providing some kind of charter, which means for some certain period, these territories are being controlled under you and you could control it in this manner. So these are known as charter acts like the 1793, the 1813, the 1833. So are you seeing the significant time frame between them? The 20 years gap between them. It means there is a charter established by the crown that for 20 years you could be governing under it. In this, the prominent act which I have summarized, the features of these two acts have been already mentioned. The prominent act is the Act of 1833 because what it has done, it has centralized the authority in India. Like previously, if you remember, I have mentioned of Governor General of Bengal, who is Lord William Bentinck as the first Governor General of Bengal. So at this point of time, the designation of Governor General of Bengal has been set as Governor General of India. So Governor General of India and central authority has been established at that point of time. And an executive council has been provided to him so that he could rule better. So after this act, another 20 years of charter has been published that after 20 years we will again review the ruling of the crown. I mean to say the company will be reviewed by the crown. So now coming right back to 1850 onwards, let us see the developments till 1900. The Charter Act of 1853. This is the last of series of acts passed under company's rule. For example, as I have mentioned earlier, in other acts like 1833 and 1813, it has been mentioned that a 20 years of charter is being provided to you for the company to rule. But nothing as that sort has been mentioned in 1853, which is a clear indication that the crown could be able to take the ruling from the company to the crown at any point of time. But as I have mentioned earlier, in history also you would learn that at 1857, a revolt has occurred by the Indians against the company's rule. So it has consistently changed the governing sector of India. Like the company's rule has ended by this point of time. By 1857, it was not, the company was unable to rule India because the Indians were opposed to company's rule. So what has happened? the crown has intervened in between. So from this onwards, there has been passage of 1858 that there would be establishing, we are eliminating the Governor General of India post and we are establishing an post of Viceroy. And also we are creating an executive council for this. There is also separation of executive and legislative functions of a Viceroy. So this you would be seeing in further developments that the acts which are passed on from run onwards, they are called as Indian Councils Acts. Okay, so the acts like 1861, the acts like 1892, these are passed to regulate councils, which consist summarily will be consisting of inclusion of more members of Indians as non-official members. These kind of provisions are there in these acts. After 1892, there comes a series of acts like Government of India Act 1909, Government of India Act 1919, Government of India Act 1935, and lastly 1947. These are the important acts which have added immensely to the contribution of our constitution. So let us see them. So the time comes as 1909. At this point of time, what was happening is, we are in India, we are having some Indian freedom fighters, you would be knowing this in detail in history, that we call them as moderates. They are demanding something from the crown. And on the other side, Muslim League, it is demanding some provisions for them on the crown. So this 1909 Act is to satisfy the demands of the moderates. What it has done, it has increased the participation of Indians in the lawmaking. It has said that in budget you cannot vote, but some kind of suggestion you could give. These kind of all provisions has been mentioned in 1909. But the significant provision which you need to be remembering is the provision for separate electorate. Till now, it has not been that we are allowing people to elect others, but it has happened that from 1909 Act, there has been the provision of separate electorate by which we are allowing the Muslim to elect the Muslim legislatures who they want to be governed by. These people are being elected by the Muslims itself. So this award, the 1909, is also known as Morley-Minto reforms. As I have mentioned earlier, Morley-Minto reforms. This is called as Morley-Minto reforms. After this, I have said it has happened that India has participated in World War I behalf of British. So from 1914 to 1918, we had World War I. After that, there were some promises which were made by British that after World War I, we would be having a good government. So for this, the August Declaration was passed and the Act of 1919. So there are certain terms which I have mentioned while dealing with this subject particularly, that we are talking about diarchy, we are talking about bicameralism, and also extension of separate electorate has been mentioned in this act. So while you are going through this, just remember that okay, this was to pacify, to cool down those Indians, and this act was passed 1919. And to review this, there has been a provision of coming of a commission like Simon Commission, which has came in 1927, and it has granted its kind of inputs for development of further better development, and these inputs were involved in making of 1935 Act. In this act, I have mentioned about provisions like federation, creation of All India Federation, separation of subjects into 3 lists, and also the abolition of diarchy at provinces, and the bicameralism at provinces has been installed at this point of time. These kind of significant provisions has been mentioned in 1935. It is also known as mini constitution because the length of 1935 Act is huge. It has detailed provisions like I have mentioned. There were 10 schedules at that point of time, and some articles of 300 odd articles were present. So it was that huge, but you need to concentrate upon some of the key features of 1935 Act and why it was being introduced. And as I have mentioned, after 1919, and commission has arrived at 1927, and it has granted for revision, and those provisions were included in 1935. So last and not the least, 1947 Act. This has added to huge of constitutional development because It has spoken about Constituent Assembly, like who is going to have a Constituent Assembly. It is for India and separately for Pakistan also. Both are going to separate as per Mountbatten Plan. And now whatever the Constituent Assembly is going to legislate, I mean to say constitute for India, those would be adopted by the sovereign country of India. Then after that, we would be, while dealing with next episodes, we will be seeing that how this Constituent Assembly has formed and framed what we call as a holy book of our Indian land, which is Indian Constitution. So now, right now, just remember that 1947 Act has given the green signal for partition of India and creation of India into a newly independent state.